Hey guys, so I am going to be planning out October in my book journal, my reading journal this month. It is a little bit more creative if you guys can see what I've penciled in than normal. This is still pretty much the same. I think I will erase that. Let me grab an eraser and I will be right back. Okay, so I have erased that. I didn't want to do it on camera for you guys because I know it shakes a lot. But yeah, I've gotten a lot more creative than normal. This is a quote from Macbeth. It says, "Double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble." So that's the quote I'm going to be using for this month. I did draw out something a little more creative. What it is I have the bubble letters that say T for October 21, and then I have like some oozy things. I was originally gonna make it blood, but I think I'm gonna use a green color instead and make it like ectoplasm. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then I also am gonna do what I did last month. So if you didn't catch that reading journal setup, I'm going to put it up in the cards for you. But what I did is I talked about each of the books I read in the previous month. I am filming this at the end of September, so I am still currently reading a September book that I will probably finish by the time this is posted, but I will talk about that one as well. I'm about halfway through, I think, so I will kind of talk about how I feel about it so far and let you guys know. And as I did last month, I will have images of each of the book covers on the screen so you guys can actually see what the book is. So what I'm using this month is I'm going to be using these three colors. I have an orange, this very deep bluish purple. I think it's called like a royal blue. I'm not sure. I don't know color names that well. And then I have this green color. So I did go for more of a common traditional Halloween color scheme. Then I have my Pentel Sign brush pen, which I'm going to do the lettering for this. And then I have my black Papermate Flare that I always use. So what I'm going to do first is actually I'm going to letter this part in and speed you guys up for that, since it will take me a little bit of time to do the actual lettering since I am still a noob at it. But once I finish that, I will come back. We'll fill everything in and I will talk about what I read in September. Okay guys, so that is my quote lettered in. I do have some spacing issues between the paper or the pencil and the marker, so I will erase those later off camera just because I know it shakes too much, and I will start coloring in here. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is Gemina. That is the second book in the Illuminae Files series. I did talk about the Illuminae Files in my last setup about how it was a really good series and I was enjoying it, and that is the same for Gemina. So this one is about two other characters than the first book. Their names are Hannah and Nick, and in this book they live on a space station called Hemidal. And oops, let me try and get this around. I will color it in so it doesn't really matter, but I'm just trying to outline right now. But yeah, so they live in the space station and they are two very opposing people. So Nick is like in a gang or something, and Hannah is the space commander, so the guy who's in charge of the entire space station, his daughter. So obviously they would be a pretty unlikely pair, but that's how these YA books go. But let me just color in this whole section here. They are the main characters of this book, so they are tasked with saving not tasks, but they end up being the ones to try and save the space shuttle from the group who have been the bad guys the whole series. What are their names again? I can't remember the name of the group, but I'll have it on the screen. But yeah, that group is trying to take over the Heimdall station. So the two of them, Hannah and Nick, try to fight back and keep the space station from going into their control. They also do work together with, what was their names? I can't remember. With Katie and Ezra, that's what their names are. From the first book, at the end of the Gemina series, or the Gemina book, they do cross paths and they do end up together. So everything does get connected eventually, but majority of the book is just about Hannah and Nick. It's not really about Katie or Ezra at all, like the first book was. And I do really enjoy that series, or that book as well. It was really good. It's written in the same format with the dossier of books. Of files. And there we go. They do still go through that with like the video surveillance transcripts and all that kind of stuff, and then their private communications and whatever else. So that is also in this book. They also talk about, or in the end of the book, it does kind of catch up closer to current time, and it does directly go into the events of the third book, which is called Obsidio. I also read that in September, so I finished the whole series in September. And in that one, it goes between all of the characters. So they bring in two new characters. Their names are Asha, who is Katie's cousin, who's still back on Kernza. I don't want to pronounce it incorrectly, but I think it's like Kurza 4, which is the planet that was attacked in the first book. As well as her male counterpart, who is actually one of the bad guys. Oh, Baytek. The place is called Baytek. So he works for Baytek. The other guy, I think his name is Reese, if I remember correctly. So Asha and Reese are on Kurza, while the rest of them, so Katie, Ezra, Hannah, and Nick, are on the Hippolyta ship, trying to get back to Kurza, because they do have to try and figure out a way to jump to civilization. So jumping means like teleporting to where they came from, or not where they came from, because they came from Kriz, whatever that planet is called, but they have to go back to where they're originally from, which is like the space station base. So they all have to try and figure out how to get back there, and that's what they're doing there. Not bad. I'm actually kind of impressed by the way that looks. I'll have to clean up a little, but it's not bad. So let me go switch to the green color and do the ectoplasm stuff. But yeah, so the last book, Obsidio, is the completion of the story. It picks up right where the last one, Gemina, left off. And it talks about basically how all the events came to a head and what happened afterwards, which is very interesting. There's one scene at the end which kind of creeps me out, just because it was like kind of weird, and it was just left at that point. Like they just let that happen. So it was a little strange to me what actually happened, but other than that, it was pretty good. So I really like in the last book as well how they actually, some events that happen in the other books that you kind of get from the way the dossier is written and stuff, they talk about those actual actions in this last book, which is really interesting. Everything kind of comes full circle. So I'm very happy with the way that they did that. So the next book I actually read this. So I was looking for like a shorter book, since the Illuminae file series are quite long, those books. And I was like, oh, I don't want to read a series, but I ended up finding a series that is actually one of the Vampire Academy series, like in that universe, but I didn't know until my sister told me afterwards. So what I'm talking about, oh, I forgot to color in the bottom here. Let's color that in. There. So I'm reading the Bloodlines series. I'm still in progress with it, but I read the first two books already. I am waiting for the third book and fourth book, I think, I have a hold on through the e-library, the ebook library in my local library through the Libby app. I'll have that information down below if you guys are interested in the Libby app. I know a lot of libraries do it, not just in Canada, in the US as well. But that's how my cover page turned out. I actually really like the way it looks. It looks way better on camera than it does in person, but I'm really impressed. I'm not an artist, so I am very happy with the way this turned out. It's not completely ugly. I do have to fix a few lines, which I'll do off camera so when I can get my nose right up to the book, but I'm very happy with that. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to turn the book so I can put my header color here. But anyway, back to the series. So yeah, I'm reading the Bloodline series currently. I finished the first two, Bloodlines and Golden Lily. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Bloodlines. Let me grab a ruler and I'll be right back. Okay, got my ruler. We can get back to the book talk. So in Bloodlines, it follows Sydney, who was a minor character in the last book. Oops, went a little too high. So let me just color in up here as well since I went too high. My headers are gonna be huge this time around. There we go. But this one is about Sydney, and she is asked by the alchemists, who are the protectors for humans against the vampires. So they basically know about both worlds, the vampire and the human world. They are humans themselves, and they are tasked with protecting humans from vampires. So what they do is they enlist Sydney to take care of Jill. I'm going to try and be non-spoilery for the Vampire Academy series since there are spoilers in this series since it takes place afterwards, but she has to take care of Jill, make sure she doesn't get killed, and she gets sent to a boarding school where they're undercover, where Jill and Sydney are sisters, Jill being Sydney's younger sister, and they also have a bunch of other vampires who are with them. So they have a Dampire, I think is what they're called, and they are the result of a human vampire union. They used to be allowed to do human vampire unions when in a very long time ago, and they created all these Dampires. Now the only way to create a Dampire is through a Dampire vampire union. I know there are like messed up lines, but I will white those out afterwards. Yeah. So they have a Dampire named Eddie helping them out in the first book. They have another alchemist named Keith who is helping them out, who Sydney knows from their past, and she's not really a big fan of him. Then there are a few different vampires. So there's Adrian, who was a pretty big character in the Vampire Academy series, as my sister has told me. And then there's a new guy named Lee. His father lives full-time in Palm Springs, which is where their school is located. He is like the only vampire that lives in Palm Springs since it is very hot and vampires do have issues with the sun. I just remembered that I wanted to keep the days that are not in the month not with the lines in them so I could decorate it better, but it's fine. I'll just cover them up. But yeah, so they have those individuals there with them. I'm going to clean up the color afterwards. And this should be enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. So we're going to start here with a Sunday start. If you guys saw my monthly plan with me, you know that I did a Monday start in that. For this, since I've been doing a Sunday start, I don't really mind continuing with a Sunday start. Especially because this, I'm not looking at anything weekly, I'm just looking at the whole month, so I don't mind. So I have that there, switch colors, and I'm going to put the dots. So the first of the month is Friday. I think I have to split this box. Let me quickly count that. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to have my 31st date up here just because I don't want to split a box. Even though it doesn't really matter since I'm just highlighting like what I read during that time, I just don't like split boxes. So I'm gonna put the 31st up there. And then I'm going to just put all these little dots in so that I can put the number in them. But yeah, so for Bloodlines, it follows them and their adventures and things that they get into. A lot of people think that Sydney is a vampire lover, which is completely frowned upon amongst the alchemists. They're not supposed to love them, they're supposed to hate them because they're unnatural, since they possess the ability to do magic and they drink human blood. But Sydney is kind of disgusted with them, but not a vamp lover. Things like magic still freak her out. But it just follows them adjusting to their new situation, as well as some other things go on. I don't want to spoil too much, but that is a really good book. I rated that one 5 out of 5 as well. It was really interesting. It was very like fluffy content. Nothing was too deep since it is just a YA novel. It is directed to teenagers and it is a shorter book, so I'm not surprised. But I enjoyed it as something lighter to read in between having read the Illuminae series, which was very deep, and there was a lot of stuff going on in the Illuminae series, so I was happy to have this change. The next book I read was called The Golden Lily. That is the second book in the Bloodline series, and the Golden Lily refers to the golden lily tattoo that all alchemists have. I think I'm going to write October across here in some script. There we go. So I have October written up there, and then I'm going to fill in all of these with the numbers. Where's my cap? But yeah, so the next book I read was The Golden Lily. It does follow, again, the same characters, and it just continues their story. So this happens, I think a short while, maybe like a few months, few weeks after the events of the first book have ended. And it just continues going through like their adjustments still. Sydney is obviously a little bit more comfortable about the vampires now that she's been living with them for such a long time. And then there are things that happened at the end of the first book that they now have to look into further in the second book. So that is a big storyline as well. So that is what goes on. Again, I'm trying to be very non-spoilery because I do want people to read these books, or anyone who wants to read the book to enjoy it. So I'm trying to be non-spoilery. But again, I rated it 5 out of 5. It was fluffy the same way. It was a little bit predictable because there were signs of certain things happening throughout the book that you kind of guess like, okay, yeah, this is what's going on. This is what's going to happen. But overall, if you're looking for something that's very light, it's not too deep, it's very fluffy. I don't know better words to describe it than fluffy. That is a good series for you to read. So the last book that I'm going to talk about today, it's one I'm currently reading. It's called Aftermath. It's by Kelly Armstrong. Kelly Armstrong wrote the Darkest Powers series and one other that I both read. Those were more like supernatural. This one is not supernatural. It is another teen book, and it's about a girl. Actually, it's about two characters, and then the point of view is flipped between the girl Sky. Sorry, I just shook the camera again. Between the girl Sky and the boy Jesse, or I think his real name is Jasir. He is a Bengali character. But it is about how the aftermath of a school shooting. These two characters were not directly involved in the shooting, but they were directly affected. Sky's brother was actually the shooter, or one of the shooters. His two friends were also involved, and he was killed by police at the school shooting. Jesse, on the other hand, was almost more than friends with Sky at the time. They were 13 when the shooting happened. They were very close. They were about to go on their first date, actually, when they heard about the school shooting. He was directly affected because his older brother Jamal was killed in the shooting. Not directly by Sky's brother, by one of his friends, but people still hold Sky accountable for her brother's actions, even though that is extremely unfair. She, being a 13-year-old, should not have been held responsible for something her brother did. She shouldn't have been expected to know that that's what he was gonna do, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's what happens with that. Total books read. I always like to put my total here, even though I have like a visual representation. So this is total books read is always the amount of books that I finished in the month. So Aftermath, if I don't finish it by October, it won't be counted in the if I don't finish it in September, it's not gonna be counted in September, it would count in October. So with that, let me just dust that out of the way. With that, it is now 5 years later. They're both sophomores in high school, seniors. No, they're seniors in high school at this point. So it is, about 5 years later. And they now talk about, or Sky has now recently moved back to her hometown. She didn't realize that Jesse even went to the school in the beginning. And it just talks about so far how they're both affected by the events of the shooting, as well as their feelings about one another. I'm not going to get into too much detail in case you want to read it, but that is also seeming to be like a 5-star read, to be honest. I am only halfway through, so I don't know for sure. I will update you guys in my next monthly plan or reading journal setup, but I am really happy. I really like Kelly Armstrong's book. Like I said, I read her other series before this, so I do enjoy her writing and her storytelling. I read a few books by her actually previously, so I have my brain dump ready there. I used it in, let me try and flip back here without spoiling things. So I used it in September to write down the creating and code challenges, which I learned from CeeLo's Bookish Plans. I'll have CeeLo's channel linked up above if you're interested, but she did a video about those, so I wanted to look into the creating and code challenges. They do like reading related challenges. But now I'm just gonna lay down some Halloween themed deco. This is from the Aesthetic Studio. It is the Trick or Treat sheet. This I have in the full size. I normally do the mini sizes if you guys have caught my weekly plan with me. But I'm just gonna pull stickers here and decorate. I'm probably gonna decorate the bottom of this page too. Actually, let me decorate my cover page first since I have the most room here. I'm gonna put this, do I have a cauldron? I have these potion looking things. If I can grab it. There we go. Let me put these here. But yeah, back to Aftermath. I do think it will turn out to be a really good book. It's very interesting so far. It does talk a lot about like Sky's mental health as well, which I do appreciate the conversation about her mental health. So I am interested to see how they follow through with the storyline of the two of them and what happened and the truth about how their friendship ended, because they actually did not talk after the shooting, after they found out what her brother did and how her brother was involved. So I'm very interested if they include that. I'm going to add this Trick or Treat. Oops, if I don't rip it. There we go. I am a little bit rough with my stickers. I've ripped a few on this channel so far, so you guys know if you are longtime viewers. I think I want to add some washi down at the bottom here. Let me go grab some. Okay, so I have these two washi's. This is the Lovely Leaves washi from the Aesthetic Studio here, and then this is one my friend Michelle gave me from Simply Gilded. Let me see if it'll focus. It's like looks like a hollow foiling. So I'm gonna add these in. I'm gonna do it like messy, so I'm gonna rip this edge here, and then I'm going to rip a piece here and lay this along the bottom. Oops, that's a little long on that side. There, and then I'm gonna do the same for this sheet. I'm going to rip each side. I don't even know if I've used this one actually. I have a larger, like a normal size thickness like this one of the same print that Michelle had given me. So I've used that one, but I don't think I've ever used the smaller one. Then I think I want to cut it off here. And we're gonna lay it too long as usual. There we go. What was I saying again about Aftermath? But yeah, I think Aftermath will be a very good book, and I'm excited to finish it and see how things turn out. I think I'm gonna put let's see if I can get these up. I'm gonna put the leaves one on top actually, because the bottom of this is see-through and it looks kind of funny. This way it looks a little bit better. There. I like that. Let's add some more deco. Let's add pumpkins over here, and then I think I'm gonna put some candy in this corner. Oops, let's move that. So I would like you guys to share with me in the comments what you are currently reading, any good books that you've read so far. I am always interested in new books. Like I've said, I do read like more YA novels, but if you do have like adult novels that you really enjoy, I am definitely interested in checking those out as well. I think I'm gonna use this whole sheet just in here, just because with the bigger stickers, I don't normally use them in my weekly because they are a lot larger. I'm just gonna lay random ones along the bottom here, I think, in a line. And then this pumpkin here. And then I can fill in the remaining space here with the candies. There. I don't mind that that's going into the first a little, because I only read one book at a time, so that's enough space there to mark that. Yeah, this is full, so I'm gonna add the candy just sporadically around this area here. Since, as you guys noticed, I don't really use my brain dump section that much. Oops, I ripped this one. Let me use the tweezers to peel it up. I really like using tweezers too, because when stickers get stuck like this, where the paper is kind of stuck to the backing, I can use my tweezers to pry it up and I won't rip the sticker. And that is that. That's an empty sheet there. So that's that. This is how October turned out. So this is the monthly here. Let me get you guys more centered. I just decorated here. I used the green super tip for the header there, the orange one for this header and the dots, and I will fill this in with what I'm reading. I used the darker bluish purple color for my brain dump, and then here is my artsy cover page with the quote and the bubble letters there. So if you're not following me on Instagram, please follow me at AJ Plans. It's here on the screen. Let me know what you guys read in September. If you guys are readers as well, what your favorite book was. I would love to hear what it was. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, hit the post notifications if you are interested. Like this video if you liked it. And happy planning. Bye guys.